Hey, what's up everybody? Today's video 4. I'm really stoked on all the positive comments and likes and follows, and everyone seems to be responding to these. Great. So thanks to everyone who's watching these, and I hope it's educational and helpful to you and practical in your life. So today's topic is James Bond to Jeffrey Epstein, how sex is used to control the world. So man, Ian Fleming, this guy is a really fascinating character. Probably a pretty contemptible human being in all respects. But one of the big themes I'm having lately is learning from the enemy, learning from people that you find completely despicable. And really, a lot of these people are in high power positions. So their beliefs and their philosophy and the way that their methodologies are very influential on the world because they are so powerful. So Ian Fleming is a perfect example. And people have a really inaccurate view of this guy and of James Bond. I mean, all these James Bond books are basically slightly exaggerated true life stories. And that includes Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, which I'm going to talk about specifically today. Fleming's other children's book, right? It was weird how all these spy chiefs like Roald Dahl, from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and James Bond, and Haldane, JB Haldane or something like that, or all these basically spy chiefs that were writing books, hiding spy secrets in books for kids. But anyway, let's talk about Ian Fleming. This guy, fascinating human being, crazy life, and very, very intelligent, like so intelligent most people can't even understand. But he had a very privileged life. So first of all, this guy was born into a big time Knights Templar banking dynasty, and you can see the themes, that Templar theme running through everything he does. The things that are known and the things that are unknown. So first of all, I think the biggest claim to fame of Fleming is something nobody even know. Most people don't really know unless they go deep into the study. But this guy was instrumental in founding the CIA. And the CIA was based on mainly the Jesuit order, first of all, but also MI6. And it's in its original, OSS, MI6 connection. I mean, I could just go on and on, but let's focus on the key points, okay? So Fleming was heir to one of the biggest fortunes. I don't know. I feel like he was probably one of the wealthiest people in Britain at the time. He was heir to Fleming Bank. I think Valentine Fleming was the name. So this theme, Valentine Fleming, right, it goes back to Gnosticism. And that guy wasn't given that name for no reason, you know what I mean? And then as we see, sex is the theme that runs all throughout James Bond novel. In every single James Bond novel and film, it's all about him contacting the female. And this is an alchemical theme that runs through everything he does, is the male and female union of opposites. Every victory he has and every supervillain that he defeats is all based on a woman. Super deep, okay? So I want to touch on a few key points. So first of all, this guy's heir to Fleming Bank, which goes, Fleming is a word that's kind of synonymous with this region of northern France and Belgium. It's an ethnic term that denotes. So what is a Fleming doing in England? So this is the key question that you can ask yourself. So anyway, so that region now, we see the Marc Dutroux scandal, right? Pedophilia, child trafficking, stuff like that. And that's super key. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Okay, this is a book for kids about a fake country called Bulgaria, where they take all the kids and put them underground. You know what I'm saying? And this child trafficking and child sex pedophilia has been running the world for thousands of years, dude. People are barely beginning to start discovering this with Epstein, right? So anyway, the point I was going to make is that, and Belgium is the hub of all this. And this goes back to the Knights Templar and shit that happened in like 900 AD and 1000 AD, like the Crusades and all this. So a lot of the Templars settled in Belgium, and the Fleming family in particular comes from that region. Wallonia and Belgium comes to Scotland, right? And so this was true of Valentine Fleming. And the Fleming Bank was so huge. I think it was eventually sold in the 90s for like $70 billion, huge financial institution. And it's relatively obscure. Most people don't know about it. But anyway, so this guy's born into this banking dynasty, right? And, you know, he gets into all the secret society, Templar, Masonic networks. I think he went to Eton, right? Is the big spy, all the prime ministers and all the spies go to Eton in Cambridge, right? So anyways, that's kind of his background. And he eventually goes to Switzerland. And the funny thing is, all these events in his life become fodder for James Bond, right? So he goes to Switzerland and studies with these two psychologists that are disciples of Mortimer Adler, a famous psychoanalyst. And basically you see this with Oberhauser in one of Fleming's short stories. And in the modern movie adaptation of Spectre, you know, Oberhauser slash Blofeld, you know, this is James Bond's stepbrother, right? And they grow up in Switzerland doing mountaineering. So I mean, I could just go on all these details, but let's just focus on the fact that he goes to Switzerland, and in real life, Bond was tied up with this Panchaud family, right, in Switzerland. Another huge Swiss banking family, and again tied in with all the pedophilia and child trafficking out of Switzerland. I mean, I could just go on and on about it all, but I'm just gonna try and stay focused. But you see him connecting with these major underworld networks that are actually running governments and running kings. Kings and queens are like their little bitches. That's how powerful they are. And this again goes back to the Templars. The Templars were kind of the same back in the 1100 AD. Were pushing all the kings and the popes around because they had a secret underground financial network based on pedophilia and sex trafficking and drug trafficking. And this is what created the USA. This is what created the CIA. This is what created everything that's making the world shitty and crushing people's spirit to this day. Still going on. Okay, so how does this relate to sex specifically? Okay, so first of all, really interesting factoid is the name James Bond is the name of an ornithologist, right? This bird watcher dude. And so where this comes in is how, so in spy circles and intelligence networks, they have a couple terms. Like you had this movie Red Sparrow that came out recently about sex operatives. So a sparrow is a female sex operative and a male sex operative is a raven, right? So you got James Bond named after an ornithologist, a bird watcher. So what he's telling you right there is that James Bond manages all the birds. Well, in real life, it would be Fleming. So he manages the birds. He's a bird watcher, right? So he watches these male and female sex operatives and how they go and manipulate political figures and wealthy people and underworld mafia. And like I said, in every single movie, James Bond cozies up to one of the women of one of these kingpins. You know, he seduces the women. And that's how he gets the power. That's how he gets inside access and information, is through the female. So super key, right? So basically, that's kind of just introducing that point. And if you just take those pieces of information and go back and watch the Bond movies or read the books, you'll see how this all plays out. That he's basically telling you most of the spy operations that he was doing in the intelligence networks is about sex. Seduction, you know. And it's like, okay, think about chess, which is a Templar game. The Templars basically not invented but popularized and brought it to Europe, the game of chess, right? So in chess, the queen's the most powerful. Use the queen. The queen can move and go places where no male could ever go, right? So by seeming weak or submissive, the queen or the female actually goes in and gets in everywhere and infiltrates and gets information, right? And a lot of times, in modern times, you know, these females are program multiples. They have multiple personality disorder and they have compartmentalized amnesiac barriers in the brain, so that one of the results of this trauma conditioning is they have basically photographic memory, so they can remember every detail of everything that they see and hear on recall. But it's only when they're induced through like hypnotic trance or certain keywords and cues, you know, kind of like Manchurian Candidate, Jason Bourne style, they get triggered into some certain sub-personality. All of a sudden, all their spy shit comes out. But if they're in their what's called the front personality and they get caught, captured, tortured, they'll have no memory of all these details, right? And again, in the Bond movies, particularly in Casino Royale, you see how this sexual torture and things comes in, you know? Anyway, so let's jump forward to to Epstein, okay? Everyone's talking about Epstein. And again, Epstein really is a bitch boy for Ghislaine Maxwell and these much higher level billionaires. You know, like Epstein was a billionaire and he had big ass mansions all over the world. He had his private island, he got the submarines, like all the helicopters and planes, like by normal human standards, he's super rich billionaire, right? But again, he's just a bitch boy front man and like a holding company for these other super mega rich that just make him look like a little ant, right? But the point is, what's he doing? He's doing sex operatives, right? And he's using his sex operatives to lure in celebrities, scientists, you know, public figures in terms of politics, you know, Harvard professor fucking Dershowitz. And he's using their sexual desire and their sexual perversions and addictions to blackmail them so that Mossad, basically, Mossad, MI6, whoever billionaires have that, you know, highest bidder can go in and use this blackmail to control them. So when key decisions or votes or whatever comes up, they just got to call it in and be like, yo, we got those tapes of you fucking little kids. You better do what we say. And this is how it actually all works. And I mean, I could go on and on about how this has been running the world for 1,000 fucking years and how they groom people from a young age to have these bizarre fetishes and addictions so that they can be completely controlled. But my point is, what we're seeing, okay, so Fleming was active, you know, 40s, 50s, you know, probably going back to World War I think, and in terms of his military activity, but he was publicly publishing all this stuff. And in fact, I'm pretty sure he was poisoned. Pretty sure he was killed because of this. He was putting out too much information that people didn't want to know. And he did so in a very coded way, but people in the know would read his books and be like, holy shit, he's giving away all our secrets. And that pretty much was what ended up getting him killed in the end, in my opinion. But anyways, so what my point is that all this Epstein scandal is like surprising everybody and taking the world by storm right now. But in reality, dude, this shit was on paper in public view, what, you know, 1960s, like so like 60 years ago, this was all published. And I mean, there's stuff before him putting it out on public view as well. But the point is, if you study your enemies and you study people that you view as evil and corrupt, and you look at their methodologies, you can see things 50, 60, 100 years in advance because they're putting it all out there. They're explaining to you the methodology of how it's all done far in advance. And I mean, this shit actually goes back to ancient Babylon. And this is something that I've been blogging and writing about for a really long time. And so hopefully with these videos, I'm going to start putting more documentation and stuff here so that people can, if you're interested in this, you can follow up and it can connect you to a whole world of information that can just dismantle all the bullshit in the world right now. But I'm trying to keep these kind of just brief and interesting topics that engage people. But as time goes on, I'm probably going to link these to blog entries that I write, which are way extensive in terms of documentation and stuff. But for now, I'm just saying, think about this in your daily life. Think about how sexual energy is everywhere. And it's all manipulated. It's not a natural reproductive type of sexuality. It's a purely misdirected death cult energy, you know, into bizarre forms of sexuality that don't create life and that don't support a healthy society in any way, and in fact destroy and subvert societies through misdirection of the sexual desire into destructive and addictive patterns. And this is something that I think everybody really needs to think about because we're all affected by it. Our ways that we think about masculinity, femininity, relationships now in today's modern society for the youth, oh my God, they're fucking mental. They're so far off the track and they think it's a great thing. They think it's a virtue to be a sexual pervert and to have their sexual energy just running amok. And it will destroy your health, it'll destroy your mind, and it'll eventually completely fucking destroy society, as we see with Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein and all these people. So think about that for today.